Hello, welcome back to All for United WFC. Apologies. I always say when Barry's hosting shows, we're a little bit late, and then today, my fault, we're a little bit late. I don't even think we've been on time for the last month, but we are here. Loads of you in the comments already. Get your thoughts in. I'm not going to waste any more time with an intro because
what do you mean always? You're not that. I ain't always late.
I was hoping to just kind of
my good name on here.
I was hoping to just kind of let that slide. If you're wondering why half of the side of my wall is grey and half is white, midway through wallpapering, so that's why it's half and half at the moment. So yeah, get your thoughts in over the next hour or so. We've got so much to try and cram in, so I'm not going to waste any more time with this intro. Let's just get straight into it. And Rob, Alina, I want to come over to you because we're going to split this. Look, I think Barry, you tweeted this. Nancy might be a little bit of a referee. Let's see how it goes. I'm not quite sure which side of the fence she's going to fall, but we'll find out. But Rob and then Alina following, I want to just get your thoughts. We've asked every guest that we've had on from an opposition point of view. How are you feeling as a Chelsea fan right now? How has your start of the season been from your point of view? And you are on mute, Rob and Alina, because I had to mute you while the intro was playing.
Yeah, I'm now off mute. I won't make the mistake of the other day when I was on a stream and I spoke for several minutes on a stream on mute, talking tactics. I mean, obviously, the first game of the season wasn't great. Never great to start on the loss. I mean, it's now become a bit of an annual event, really, for Chelsea fans to see how we can throw away the first game of the season. But since then, I think we've actually played well. We're improving every single game, and I think what's interesting to me is the way we're approaching games is different this year. There's more of an emphasis on control. There's more of a focus on controlling the game, which I think is what was lacking last year. Not probably in big games, but also especially in the Champions League. And it feels like a side that is trying to play a more mature brand of football, is the way I'd phrase it, in maybe sacrificing some of the attacking sort of oomph and some of the, kamikaze attacking at times, in favour of, controlling play and being a lot more controlled. And to be honest, I think at this moment in time, Chelsea are where you'd expect them to be. They're in around, the top of the table, and that's where they're going to be all season. I think that's not unfair to say.
And Alina, same question to yourself. How are you kind of feeling looking at Chelsea so far?
Yeah, I feel pretty much confident. I thought that it will be another 6-1 thrashing of Man United this time. But I think Chelsea will do well, as you've said it, Rob. I definitely agree with you that they'll approach the game differently than they did it the last time. But I feel very much confident about it. I think for Chelsea, it's just important not to switch off during the game, to be fully awake during the whole 90 minutes, to be clinical in front of goal. And I think if they manage to do that, then they'll secure the 3 points.
100%. There's a few comments already about LJ. I want to come back to her because she's had a great start to the season. Obviously, Kirby as well, obviously out for the weekend. Obviously, we don't want to see that from the spectacle point of view, but one great player down is not a bad thing from a United point of view. Nancy, I want to get your thoughts on how are you kind of seeing this? Who do you? Is a straightforward question. Who do you think are favourites going into this after the starts of the season that both teams have had?
I think you've got to say Chelsea are favourites, if I'm being completely honest. That's not disregarding United at all. But Chelsea, when I watched them the other day against Villa, they came out punching. They came out different. The link-up play between Sam and Lauren was on another level. But then saying that, you got the likes of Lucia Garcia, who is an absolute baller. When she's on the pitch, she is untouchable. So I think Chelsea slightly edge it as favourites, but that doesn't mean to say they're going to win at all. And United definitely will be giving them a run for their money. They're a team now that are pushing for that Champions League spot, that Champions League place to get there. So yeah, they're going to be going in all guns blazing, wanting to win this and really make a statement for that spot.
And go on, Barry. Let's hear it from a United point of view. How are we viewing it then? Because I'm a bit torn. I've seen a lot of the predictions come in. By the way, if you haven't already sent your predictions, please do. I'm looking at everyone on this panel, including myself, because I haven't done mine either. I've been seeing the predictions come in all week, and it's very, very mixed. There's not a consistent. It's always by a 1-goal margin. How are you kind of looking at it from a United point of view then? Because we're getting close to the game now. We were very confident at the start of the week. not gonna lie, my confidence has gone down as the game has got closer. How are you feeling going into it?
Okay, right. Well, you know me, I'm not a hysterical person. So let's just get that out there right away. And we've said that Nance might have to do some refereeing, but to be honest with you, you know me, I'm a measured person. So I'm going to say two things. The first thing is that Chelsea should win the game. They should, because they've got the history. They are effectively the best team in the WSL. Even Mark Skinner's admitted that. They are historically the best team in the WSL, certainly of this era. So in that respect, they should. However, they're not going to, because, as I've said before, we're going to win the league. I keep saying this, and people keep on laughing at me. You keep doing it all the time, but it's going to be closer. It's going to be closer than that 6-1 result. There's no way we're going to go there and get hammered. I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's going to be tight. Could be a draw. Might be a 2-1 win either way. But genuinely, I don't see it being a hammering. And to be brutally honest with you, Connor, I think if we come out of that game having not been battered and having a nice, tight, close game, ultimately that's all you want to have your big games of football. You know, you expect that when you have big teams playing each other. You can't really call it one way or the other, but you want them both to be playing really, really well and being close. A little bit like that Arsenal and Liverpool game that happened earlier on in the men's game. It was a really good game, back and forth. They were really tight. So there we go. I think that's what we're going to have. It's going to be a close one. Obviously, I'm going to go 2-1 United, but I think it's going to be well tight. Well tight.
Barry, I'm not laughing at what you're saying. I'm laughing at what I'm thinking when you're saying it. So in my head, when you're saying like a nice game of football, all I can think of in my head is like, yeah, let's just let women's football win. Women's football is the real winner here with a great game of football. And I've just literally cracked myself up thinking it. And it's just like, I'm actually cracking up. Like, I'm sorry, but you set me off with it. But I respect everything you're saying. But in my head, it's just like, yeah, women's football is the real winner.
I do this to Connor all the time. So, you know, it's quite nice to have people either side of me doing it for once. It's nice.
Oh, don't. You were if anyone watched Monday's show, Barry proper killed me off on that one. I had to mute my mic, turn my camera off. I had to go step away for 5 minutes. That was not ideal. There's an interesting comment, TJ, that I'm going to ask Alina in about a few minutes' time because I want to get back to Chelsea's backline in a little bit. Rob, and I think Alina, you mentioned it as well. I want to talk about LJ first off from a Chelsea point of view. Obviously, United fans will know her very well as well. I wouldn't say a tough season last year, but certainly wasn't in and around the squad as much. But this season, I've got to be honest, looking at it from the outside, she's stepped up another level. I think this season she's come into the season as a different player. Rob, how are you kind of seeing her and the threat that she could, that will bring, obviously, on Sunday?
It's really interesting because I had some conversations with people in the summer, and they said that the big thing, like LJ said at the start of the summer, was she really wanted to kick on and get herself fully fit. And like all of last year, she never felt like she was fully fit. She never felt fully sharp. And she did a lot of work with the same people that actually I know have worked with Trevor Chalobah on the men's side and also with Reece on the men's side to get them sort of fit and sharp. And one of the things I think is so interesting about Lauren James, a bit like her brother, is that they're so quick and they're so agile despite the frame. They've got, the strength and they've got that real powerful frame. But at the same time, they're so good in tight spaces. And I think, I saw it at the weekend. I saw, the game live. I thought Lauren James is the best player on the pitch. She looked a cut above absolutely everyone. Just the dribbling, the speed of movement, the finishes were good finishes. She also got one very good assist. And the thing I liked about the assist was that it came from a chance where, Kerr did her best. It was sort of a half chance. But then immediately Lauren James was looking and predicting on that loose pass, jumping in on it, and then moving the ball quickly. And I think in the past, that's maybe been the issue with James is she's taken one too many touches. She's, taken the dribble one step too far. She's tried to beat one too many players. And now that she's adding, that consistency to her thought and adding that, thinking to the game, it makes it a massive sort of weapon. I compare it a little bit to Guro Reiten, of how Reiten started in the WSL. In Reiten's first season, as tremendous as she was, there were times when the end product didn't really come because she was too preoccupied on, on the dribbling or keeping the ball. And now that she's become so good on the other side of it, of knowing when to distribute it, you're seeing the assist numbers rack up. I also think she'll be really fired up for it anyway, because I'm sure she'll get, a entertaining reception. And whilst I don't think she'd want anything other than that, and a more general point, I think there should be some spice in the game. Like I know what Nancy's saying about football being the winner, and I agree it should be a great game of football. But a great game of football doesn't mean that it should be, there shouldn't be proper spice and sort of fire in it. I watched the North London derby earlier in the year, and even though that was a 4-0, you could see the spice in the game. And I think that's what, you really want to see in these big matches. Same with Liverpool when they played Arsenal a couple of weeks ago. You want to see the big matches. You want to see players turning up for it and knowing it means something.
There definitely should be that, certainly from a United point of view, because it comes back to a question I'm going to ask you, Barry, in a little bit. But Nancy, I want to throw that same question over to you in terms of talking about LJ as well, because I know I've seen your kind of tweets and your thoughts about her as well. Just, I guess, your thoughts on and what she can add that's maybe a little bit, because we can talk, and we probably will talk about Chelsea's attacking talent. It's just ridiculous. But now LJ's coming to the mix and she's showing the talent that we know that she's got as well. So I guess just what you think she can do on Sunday and the impact she's had already so far in the WSL.
Yeah, I think the most important thing for me, which I'm seeing in Lauren, is that she's happy. She's happy, so she's enjoying herself. She's having fun on the pitch. She's expressing herself. She's off the mark. She's scoring goals. Scored 2 the other day, 2 fantastic goals. As Rob said, the movement, the off the ball movement, everything she was doing on that pitch, honestly, to watch her was an absolute delight, down to getting the finish, bagging a goal, and the celebrations to match. I just think she's bringing so much personality on the pitch. Off the pitch, she's a great girl anyway. Like, I've got so much time for a really, really, really top person. Probably one of the politest people I've ever met. But yeah, she's enjoying her football. I don't know if she really got to do that at United as much as she would have liked to. But at Chelsea, she's shining. I think she's filled with confidence, happy, make for a very, very dangerous LJ on the pitch.
I hope. And Robert, Barry, I'm going to bring you in on this because it kind of leads me to a question I was going to ask anyway. But Rob mentioned the atmosphere that she might get. Now, we know, obviously, some ex-United players, Greenwood in particular, got a pretty hostile reception last year when City came to LSV. And to be fair, she welcomed it, when City scored, running up to us with her kind of hands behind her ears, which was frustrating, but fair play to her. It's what I love it. As much as it's annoying at the time when you're I can't remember what the score was. It was the 2-2 draw at LSV last season. But Barry, I just want to talk to you a little bit. The sellout crowd, 8,000. Well, I say sellout. It probably will be, or near enough by the time we get close to the game. 8,000 already. Behind the goal now as well in the standing section. How good do you think that's going to be as well? Because as I think Lanzel's put the comment, in my opinion, Chelsea and United have the best supporters and the atmosphere should be great for the players to put on a performance. How good do you think that's going to look? The fact that the singing section, obviously, for United behind the goal, and just the fact that, 8,000 sold already.
Just before I get to that, pun alert. You wanted spice, Rob? Well, you can have Mary Herbs and Sam Paprika.
Dear. Oh, dear. I got that
one in there. Listen, 8,000. Sorry, Connor. 8,000 would be amazing. The game against Reading was really nice because we were in there, we had the 3 stands open, and that's the first time we've been there with all 3 stands open and seen that many people in there. But this time it's 4. We've got the terrace behind the goal as well that's going to be open, and I think that's going to be an atmosphere unlike any that we've had before. I'm sorry, Sang. I am. Sorry, I apologise. Hold my hands up, but it was all I could think of. I think it's the Old Trafford game was good and it had a bit of an atmosphere in it, but it was all coming from one side. I think what we've noticed in the last couple of home games is that there's other people behind the goal that are more willing to get involved as well, and so the atmosphere is building. And I think if we have that as well, with the noise coming from behind the goal in the terrace where most of us will be, and the opportunity to have that around the edge as well, I think it really will be a cracking atmosphere. And obviously, we know that the Chelsea fans make a little bit of noise. They're much like their name is Chelsea pensioners. It's a bit like a bingo hall. Sometimes you occasionally hear a few shouts and cries coming from across the pitch. But I think it's going to be amazing. I really do. And I think, as I keep saying, we want it to be good. We want it to be spicy. We want to have all that fight and all of that competition that you would expect to have. But by the same token, I can't wait for this game. I think it's going to be absolutely brilliant. The only thing that I'm not looking forward to is the drive home, because it's going to be around about 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock by the time we get home. But yeah, I think the atmosphere is going to be superb, and it always is. And that will drive the girls on for sure.
No, 100% agree with that one. Now, I'm going to come back to TJ's comment, and Alina, I'm going to come to you first in this one. You probably guessed that I would, because talking about a particular player in the Chelsea backline, obviously Magda Eriksson in particular, your kind of thoughts on this? I've not watched Chelsea too much this season, so I'm not going to comment myself. TJ's been following Chelsea, some fans, I'm assuming that's Twitter. They're rather negative about Magda playing at left back. I don't think she's played left back every game, I've got to be honest, from the little bits I have seen. But I guess just your thoughts on how she's... Here we go again with the fireworks. How she's played so far this season, and just left back, is that kind of where you see her moving forward? I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I'm not too sure about the left back position either. I think it was like prior to the Euros that Sweden started playing her as a left back as well, just to try things out. And at Sweden it showed that it didn't work out the way the coaches wanted it to work. And I think it's the same with Chelsea, but Chelsea are just really stacked in defense as well, with Khadija Buchanan coming in. Of course, that's like a player you can't just bench. So, and like then you also have Millie Bright, who you also can't just bench like that. So it was just a matter of time that Magda would have to shift to left back, kind of. Also with the departure of Jana Andersson after the last season, and with Chelsea not having a lot of players for left back position, was just clear that it would happen at some point. But I think first of all, it's a bit. I mean, of course, it's a risk to split like a dream centre back pairing like Eriksson and Bright. I mean, they worked so well. That worked out so well during the last seasons. And yeah, but as I said, with Buchanan coming in, of course you have to start her, but she's still struggling to find her feet at Chelsea. But I think she'll grow with the upcoming games, and yeah, just give her a season of time basically. But I think with Magda playing left back, there's like a bit of a progressive player missing in the Chelsea backline. That's what she does really well. At centre back, obviously a ball carrying centre back who brings the ball forward, and with her at left back, I think there's a bit of the defense like a bit of going forward. It seemed very static at some point, and they just tried to open up the game from behind with long passes forward, and that was just a bit predictable and didn't really work out the way they wanted it to. So I think it's clear that a lot of fans or a lot of spectators are rather negative about her playing left back, but it's just like down to Chelsea having so many good players that they want to start and want to keep happy. And yeah, it's just something that was supposed to happen. And let's see how it turns out during the season.
Rob, I want to come to as a follow-on from that, there's a question just very briefly on this one. Lanzar's putting question to the panel, thoughts on Carter. Does she start? I rate her, but also Buchanan and a settling in period in the WSL. Does Carter start on Sunday? I would doubt it, but just your thoughts on that comment.
I don't know about that, because one thing's with Carter, they have brought Carter in at times in bigger games for her defensive solidity. To be honest, it wouldn't surprise me if Buchanan didn't start on Sunday. It wouldn't surprise me if they went back to a 4, and maybe I think Perisset will play it right back, because Perisset has been immense so far. But it wouldn't surprise me if one of Carter or Charles was put in at left back, particularly to deal with the fact that Ona will be overlapping and to try and pin her back a little bit more. It wouldn't surprise if it was Nim Charles starting, because one of the things Chelsea can then do, or even if they go to a 3 at the back and they play Wrighton as the wing back, because then that means that Ona isn't going to be able to sort of play on the front foot if she knows she's constantly got Wrighton sort of in that space in behind her, because that's such a massive sort of outball from Chelsea's perspective. In terms of Jess Carter, I think Carter's probably the most unlucky player in the squad at the minute, because last season she was pound for pound my vote for player of the season, probably my vote for the most improved player in the whole of the WSL. Has obviously come back from being part of the squad that won the Euros, and again, she kind of almost, after cementing her spot last year, she's now got the same challenge of trying to get it back again this year. But I think she does add real solidity in there. And I do think that if Chelsea do go to a 3 at the back, I think they probably would start her and Eriksson in a 3, because I think that's the more, so obviously with Millie Bright in there. I'm counting Bright as a definitive starter for any of the defensive formations. But I think you'd probably go with that as that's a more solid option. In terms of Buchanan on a broader sort of point, I think she is taking a little while to settle in, but we saw similar to Aniek Nouwen last year. It took Nouwen a little while to set in. And one of the big things I will say Buchanan does definitely add, and I think this is something that Chelsea are starting to see the better of, is her ability to take it out from the back and to actually sort of move forward and commit players, because she's able to commit the first line press. And when she is able to commit that through the midfield, she can then pass through the line. And we saw that a couple of times against Aston Villa, especially in the first half, of being able to commit that first line press. And once you do that, you then open up a lot of space. And with Chelsea's nature of the fact they have players like Wrighton and Harder that sit on and Kerr that sit on the line anyway, it makes it really easy then to, release them and send them through.
No, hard to disagree with that. A lot of comments that I'm just trying to read through at the moment. I think this is, well, it's definitely not me, and there's only 2 people who've got access to it, so I'm assuming it's Barry. Are you going to continue these for the rest of the show, or are you just trying to find some more?
The last one. I'm bored now. I've had a little look, and that's it. I was going to go with Oregano Wrighton, but that didn't go very well like that, so I'm bored now. I've had enough.
Yeah, don't quit your day job on that one. Lanzo talking about Wrighton. I'm sure we're going to talk about her as well. There's so much to get through in the next kind of 40 minutes. So I don't know how we're going to cover all of this. Right, I'm going to come back to it from a United point of view then. Nancy, I'll start with you, and Barry, your thoughts on this. I know obviously we've spoken a lot about this. Ona obviously coming back into the side. Looks like Russo's going to be back into the side. I guess the importance, I'll start with the back line and Ona's return. And just, Nancy, what you've thought on United's start to the season, particularly that back line, the Myla Tissier, Millie Turner partnership. Obviously, we've seen Ona at the start and then Blundell on the left. And Mary Earps, as we've all said, has almost come back from the Euros, a different player altogether. Just your input in that. I tweeted earlier that maybe is that going to be the difference? Can United's defensive stability hold out what we know is a very good Chelsea attack?
Yeah, I think obviously now that you've got players fit and able to come back into the squad, it enables United to have that dead set backline, but also players to drop in if they do need a rest or there needs to be a little bit of rotation, which is incredibly important for the players to have that rest. There's been so much on that recently. The young player, Letitia. Honestly, I do this every single time. It's like wrecked in my head that I never pronounce it right, and it really irritates me. But we all know I can't read all right, so it's going to be fine. Right, Maya Letitia, yeah? We're saying yeah.
Yeah, well done, because we can't say our first name properly either. So
honestly, like I do it all the time, and it's so frustrating. But everyone knows who I'm on about. Regardless of that, top quality player. I think she's cemented her spot in the side, and she brings so much. Like she literally is bringing goals and assists as well. Like who does that in her position at her young age for a team like United? Like very unheard of. Thank you to Lanzel who said I'm right. I appreciate that. But yeah, they're a good team. They got a good back line. She's a great player. She is doing bits for United, which she's only going to continue to do and to continue to grow. Millie Turner, she's obviously tall. And I know as simple as that comes, like it scares people. Coming up against a player who's taller than you, you're pretty much like, all right, how do I tackle this? Like, how do I get around this? But yeah, I think United have got a strong team. They've got a lot of players coming on and off, coming in and out. I think something that we touched on, I know I'm moving up the picture quite a bit, but I saw someone say, will Keats get a start with less being back fit? But you also have to remember when a player comes back as being fit, they also do come back after not playing for a while. So will it be that she gets minutes in parts and maybe Keats gets the start and less comes on and builds up from there? So I think with Nikita at the moment and how she's playing, she's off the mark. She's again someone playing with confidence and happy. I'd quite like to see her on the pitch and building on that confidence with having Alessia as an option, which absolutely is not the worst thing in the world to have. And that's not because Alessia shouldn't be playing. It's because when you look at it in the fitness aspect and coming back aspect, it kind of is one of those things that you could argue just makes sense. I hope that answers the question.
No, fully. And as Sarah said there, we all know Alessia can be a sub, super sub. She actually did in the Chelsea, and not that I want to talk about that too much, the 6-1 game. She did come off the bench at half time, scored. I know it took a big deflection to go in, but she came off the bench, made an impact, and also hit the bar, I think, in the second half at 4-1.
Yeah.
I think.
4-1 hit the bar from range.
So she can do that as well. The answer to this question, Jamie, can Marriott keep a clean sheet? Well, she's already kept a load anyway, so my answer is yes. But it's not going to be certainly not going to be easy. She's going to be tested more than she certainly has already so far this season. Barry, come over to you then. Same, almost similar kind of question, really. The importance of the fact that we've got Ona coming back, because we've spoken a lot about Maria and other players that have kind of fitted in the last kind of couple of games that at different positions. Maria played right back first, and she switched to left back twice, and we've kind of seen a mixed back line. But now Ona's come back in. It's going to be that back five, isn't it? It's going to be Ona on the right, Blunda on the left, Maya, Millie, and Earps behind, unless you think any differently on that. And just the importance of that. And I guess I think, as Lanzel's put in that question about Russo as well, would you expect Russo to come back in and start, or would you be bringing her off the bench like we did the other day?
Okay. Back five, absolutely. I think it picked itself at the moment. I said it the other day. People are having a massive conversation about it. You don't change it. You don't change it as best as you can. Mary Earps needs to be the goalkeeper. It makes absolute sense to bring Ona back. And the reason why you want Ona is for that attacking thrust that's going to give you down the right-hand side. We relax that. Maria has been fantastic, actually. She's grown into that full-back position. But what she doesn't have is the attacking nous that Ona brings us. So I think for us, having Ona in is going to be really important. Just her battling qualities, the way she goes forward, and also the link up that she has with Luthia as well. So I think that's the big thing that happens there on the right-hand side, that automatically just brings back that chemistry, which will be very helpful, and something that Chelsea haven't really gone up against yet. And I think that's the thing that we've got this year that we haven't had in previous years. I think Chelsea probably sort of knew how we were going to play, what we were going to do, what our players were going to be like. I think there's going to be a little bit of a chance maybe to sort of gazump them where we can here, because although they'll know the players and they've seen them, it's a little bit of a different animal, Manchester United this time. We don't just back down as easily as perhaps we might have done. And even if we do concede, again, I don't think we'll then go on to concede 2, 3, 4. So I think that's the first thing. The second thing with regards to Alessia, I think she's a fantastic player. I think having her at the front of the line is something that I've called for. But then equally, Nikita Paris is our top goal scorer at the moment. And, I'm never a fan of just taking people out and putting people in just because of their name. At the end of the day, if you're performing, you should be given the chance to carry on performing. Otherwise, what's the point in playing football and having a team sport if you just know you're going to get pulled back every single time that somebody else comes back who's got potentially a bigger name or more potential? So I would personally probably bring Russo on as a sub if Nikita hasn't managed to do the business, because she has at the moment. She's scored some fantastic goals. She's firing on all cylinders. And if it doesn't work, if it isn't working, then bring her in. Mark Skinner talks about it in his press conference, and he mentions the fact that actually, in a way, it's a little bit disrespectful to say either or, because you could potentially play them all together. He uses that magical term that it's fluid at the top five, so they can all sort of move around a bit and, play the hokey cokey. But let's be honest, all we're really bothered about is having the right players, and Leah Galton potentially up there as well. I wouldn't change the team too much. We're joint top scorers in the league. We've got a fantastic defence that hasn't conceded in the WSL. And unlike some teams, you haven't lost a game yet. So, I feel like we've got all the positives that we can talk about. And it's really nice to be able to sit here and say that.
No, that's a fair point. We're about halfway through the show, so I'm going to bring a more light-hearted question. I was going to leave to the end, but I'm going to do it now, and this is to everybody to answer. And there's no little cheating. I've put a little caveat in this question. So, Nancy, you're going to have to answer it for both teams here. So you've got a chance. You can buy anyone from the opposition side, but they have to go into the starting 11. I don't want any of this. We'll buy them to stick them on the bench and rotate. they've got to go into the starting 11 and make an impact in your team. Because you could all say, oh, I'd buy them as a rotation or something like that. It's got to be someone from the opposition team who's going to go into your starting 11. So we'll go with that one first. Nancy, I can see you kind of really excited to answer this one. Who would you swap? Who would you put in United side from Chelsea and vice versa? Who would you put in Chelsea side from United that starts?
Do you know what? I'm going to be honest, yeah, and I'm looking at this as a it's a bit biased, but I don't actually care because I rate her and I think she needs more playing time. So get Beth England over to United, put her in the starting lineup, show Chelsea what they're missing. I'll say it like that. She needs more playing time. I'm big on this Bethany England train at the minute. And I know people are going to be like, oh, you've got this person, that person, this person, that person. But when you're putting in a person who's got a point to prove.
No, that's
my little mic drop.
That's a fair point. What about the other way around? Who would you stick in Chelsea?
Yeah, I'm not as excited for that one. I'm going to be honest. Right. I didn't think that one through. But nah, to be fair, I think Beth England's my biased one, but I will stick with it because I actually rate it. So United to Chelsea. That's hard. Do you know what? Maybe this one might be a little bit rogue. I've got two names floating about only because I just know they're like players that potentially don't get the recognition because they're not the biggest names, but like a Hayley Ladd or a Leah Galton. Mm-hmm. Because they're they're consistent players. And I feel like someone, especially like Leah Galton, she is absolutely class. Like, she's one of those players, like her work rate is unmatched. Like her on the ball, like it's very hard to get her off the ball. She's a strong player. She plays with passion. So yeah, I think they're quite ones you weren't expecting, but I'll take them. I'll take both of them.
It's proud of them, to be fair. It's interesting you say Galton because my player is going to be someone that Lanzell mentioned. I think Rob already knows this anyway.
I'm not going to take her right now. No,
mine was going to be Wrighton to replace Leah on the left. That's no disrespect to Leah. I would think Wrighton. There's plenty of players you could pick from Chelsea side that we're getting this United side, but for me, if I'm picking just one, it would be Wrighton. Go on, Rob. Who's starting for Chelsea from a United point of view? Who would you nick up first?
It's simple. Take Honor and then put Perisset to left back. Perisset can play both sides. That is one of the things I've been most impressed with of Perisset so far is she could play left back and she can cross it with her left foot as well. She can cross it with her right foot. She's genuinely a two-footed player, and it's something it's such a strange thing to look at fullback. But I don't think I've seen many other fullbacks that look so sort of natural, sort of two-footed. She can pass it really well. She's got great set pieces, and then I think Honor is the obvious natural pick. I mean that. I think, to be honest, in the summer, assuming she doesn't sign a new deal, that will be the big transfer saga of the summer because there will be loads of clubs. I mean, Manchester, obviously, City have got Kasparai, but I think Honor will be an upgrade for them. Arsenal, I really like Steph Catley, but I think Honor is an upgrade on her. I think for Chelsea, Perisset is a very good player, but I think you can move her to left back, like I've said, and it's never been a problem for Chelsea signing players in the same position, even when they really don't need them. Wolfsburg and Lyon, again, they're both going to say straight to it. We know Barcelona have interest there. The one that really wouldn't surprise me, actually, to go really info would be Real Madrid. And it sounds a bit odd, but I think they will want a prominent, big-name Spanish player in the sort of future. I mean, it's interesting someone says about Beth England, because and again, obviously, so from Chelsea's perspective, I know there have been times when they've been willing to let Beth England go, but the issue is that their valuation of Beth England has been very different to what people want to pay for Beth England. And that is what one of Chelsea's sort of issues is that she's under contract and they're not going to sell cheaply. They're
Give
under
Beth whatever she wants. Give her what she wants. She deserves it.
Precisely. Again, my issue with it is that, on one hand, I want to see players playing more, and I don't blame them if they want to go elsewhere to play. On the other hand, the club shouldn't simply just sell a player for the sake of selling it unless they can get a replacement. Now, I suppose for me the argument is... What
about loans though, Rob?
You're
getting the whole... There's loan option.
Well, there is a loan market, and that kind of is an interesting argument for January, is that if Chelsea did loan out Beth England, they have the benefit of if she goes to, say, let's argue, argument's sake, United or Villa or wherever, who I know Villa at times have been interested in her. But if she goes there and then takes points off the other top 4 rivals, all the other top 10 rivals, is that, worth the sort of sacrifice? And it's sort of a bit of a catch-22. On the other hand, and, again, touch wood, it doesn't happen, but if Sam Kerr does get, injured or is out for a period of time, then I think Beth England is the best, backup striker in the league. And I will die on that hill. I think she'd start for almost every other WSL side. I've said this before. I think, I don't think she starts ahead of Bunny Shaw. I think at the moment she doesn't start ahead of Blackstenius for Arsenal. But other than that, I think you'd make a strong contender. She'd start ahead of everyone, and I include Russo at United for that.
Interesting.
I just think it's hard to see, for me personally, like, take away what team they play for or whatever. Yeah. It's just hard to see good players sitting on the bench and not getting playing time, which is obviously rubbing off on their international.
That's
a flat out comment across the board. Like
I agree,
and I that takes away from my biasness or like my relationships, friendships. I should say better, more so than relationship, friendship, definitely across the board. No, I feel like when I say relationship, people will be like, "Oh, relationship," but for me, relationship is friendship. But just to clarify. I friendships. Like across the board, it is frustrating to see good players not getting played, and essentially, the back of my mind is like, how does that treat them confidence-wise when they know they should be on the pitch and they would be somewhere else, if that makes sense?
Yeah, no, I think that's fair, and I think it's important to sort of reference the fact that that's why I'm sort of caught between a rock and a hard place in that regard, because I've got to put my analytics and my squad building hat on and say that, okay, let's say Chelsea did sell Beth England. Who can they then replace Beth England with the same budget, who's going to be happy to come in for that same role and be the same quality? And there's no one that immediately springs to mind. There are, some very good young strikers at Chelsea, and I think, one of the big disappointments for me this year, one of the big what ifs is what if Lucy Watson had got a full year out on loan rather than doing her ACL, and I hope, she recovers fully from that. But knowing the talent that people like Watson and Beaver Jones have and Rihanna Blades, like they're the sort of players that realistically, if Beth England did go, say, next summer, I think you could start bringing them in and blooding them in and still also keeping Kerr as that number 1 striker. So it's a real difficult situation.
It's opened
so
up.
Let me get this straight. The question is, which player do we take from third place Chelsea to put into top of the table Manchester United's team?
The question is, which player do you take from the champions? Which player do you take from the champions to come and play for the team that never played Champions League?
Go on, Barry, very quickly, because I want to get to Alina as well, because there's a lot of questions that have just come in the comments.
Alina can go first if she would like. I'm a big fan of ladies first.
Go on, Alina. Who are you taking from United that starts at Chelsea?
Thanks, Barry. Good question. I'm definitely agreeing with Nancy on the Beth England thing. Definitely take her from Chelsea to Man United, just for Owen's sake. I mean, just how disappointing would it be for a top striker like her to miss out on the World Cup potentially next year? That would be devastating. No more to add to that. And I think from United, let's just go for the vibes. I would take Alessia Russo to Chelsea.
The vibes.
Not that Chelsea would need her. I mean, they just sacked an offense, but just go with it.
Interesting put. Go on, Barry. Who are you taking?
I'm just trying to think about this. I really have, because I like my team. There's not that many that I would want to change. And that
especially with them at the top of the table.
Well, exactly that. But it's just this whole idea that, like you said, put Wrighton in, but I rate Leah Goulton, what she provides. They're very different players. I would sit there and I think I would love Guro Wrighton in my team, but I also love having Leah Goulton there. And you very clearly stipulated I have to bring somebody in to take somebody else out of the team. So that means I still want Russo up front. So I can't even bring Sam Kerr over because I want to see how Russo develops and what she does. So then I thought, well, I'd quite like maybe Harder. But then we've got Tooney. I was like, what do I do? So I'm going to throw out a name that nobody else has thrown out, and this might be the end of my career here on All for United, but we'll see. I would actually bring in Erin Cuthbert.
Yeah, I was going to say you're going to say Cuthbert, and I was going to say that's going to be the name, and that would be the obvious pick, because I think at the moment she's been our best player so far this season in terms of consistency.
See, I just forget so many Chelsea players because your team is so stacked. I was trying to think through who actually is there that could come across. There's certainly a lot that could come across, but that opened up so many questions. There's a couple of questions coming. I just want to briefly answer before we get back to talking about the game. So I was talking there about Zellum. Nobody talking about her. She's instrumental in starting our attacks. The dead balls, as we know, set pieces. I think she is, unless she's been overtaken in the last game week, but she was top in terms of chance creation for the WSL. A lot of that is because of the set pieces and things like that. I want to get, Nancy, I'll start with you on this one because this is an interesting, obviously me and Barry have had our say on this on the last week or so. There was a lot of talk from the article that came out, and I can see Rob laughing, I know why, in terms of the article that came out that obviously Leon are interested in Russo, but the subcontext or the next line down from that was that Leon might see United as a selling club. Now, a lot of United fans believe this, and a lot of United fans are buying into this, that, we're selling everybody on as going, Jackie went, Russo's going, and everything else. There's a lot of panic at the moment. Nancy, how do you see it from the outside? Do you see United as a selling club, or do you actually see us as a good kind of prospect, a good team to be at moving forward?
I think if United are putting in the work behind the scenes in terms of how the girls are treated and what they're given when they're turning up to training, if they're prioritized, they're most definitely a club that you wouldn't say no to. I think you always need to look at what's being done behind closed doors that the eye doesn't see on the surface. I don't know if that's a saying, I've made it up, it's along the lines. So yeah, I don't think it is a selling club. Like, as I said, as long as they've got the stuff behind closed doors going on and it's working well, i.e. facilities, the way they're being treated, the way they're being looked after, what's being provided for them, compared to, let's say, the boys' academy or whatever. I think that's the first thing you'd probably go to the comparison to. Are they like well respected and well looked after? If that's all happening behind closed doors, I don't see the team being somewhere that people would want to go to and then move on from quickly. I hope, in my head, that makes a lot of sense. I think I've probably addressed it in a different way that you wasn't probably expecting. But let's use like a Chelsea, for example, just because they're obviously who they're against. At Chelsea, they're looked after in terms of their facilities when they're turning up to training, where they're going, what provisions they're getting, etc., etc., etc. So why would you want to move from a club where you're being well looked after? And United are doing well at the moment, especially if they maintain how they're staying, if they get Champions League spot, as well as that. I don't see it being a team that people would want to go to or move on from.
No, fair comments on that one. Rob, Alina, have you got any thoughts on that one, or did you want me to move on that question?
I mean, I have to be very careful what I say here.
I know you do.
I will say that I did that thread on United a few weeks ago, just as when the season started, and it links in quite nicely with someone's question on someone else about Polly Bancroft's appointment. I think that's a step in the right direction, as long as Polly Bancroft is given the power and the influence and the relative resources needed in order to make stuff happen. Because far too often at United, and this is across the men and the women's side, there have been the right appointments in place for stuff, but they've not been given the right resources. And so they've just got frustrated and either gone elsewhere or, not been used to the absolute best of their ability. Now, in terms of the selling club sort of point, I mean, it's difficult because on one hand, I don't think United are a selling club. But on the other hand, I don't think it helped the position at all by the fact, that your manager said no one's leaving and then you sold a key player a week later, because whatever people thought about Jackie Grun, I think it's fair to say it wasn't as if you were selling a fringe player or a youngster. It was a recognisable name. And then I also don't necessarily think Mark Skinner's helped this by bringing this up in a press conference and saying specifically, I can categorically say we're not a selling club. Because realistically, if I was a manager, and I suspect if you'd asked Emma Hayes this, she would just ignore the question. And, she would have just moved on. I kind of feel by bringing it out into the open, you've now actually opened up that dialogue. And I think, it's interesting. I think United are in a real interesting crux this season of that if they don't get Champions League football, I think you will see some of the big names leave. And then you fall into a difficult quagmire of how do you rebuild when you're constantly rebuilding.
That for a person who couldn't say too much on, you answered that very well. We'll move on then, talk about the game a little bit more, because like I've got so many questions written down. We're not going to get through all of these in the next 15 minutes or so. But Barry, I want to come back to you from a United point of view. I don't know how you want to answer this, and anyone else can jump on this if you want to. And I can see myself reading this question out, and I'm waiting for people's response. Barry, if United win this on Sunday, can we now be realistically title contenders? I know you've said it from the start of the season, but looking at it from, you've probably come to the wrong person first here, but if we win on Sunday, do we have to then be in the conversation for the title?
Definitely come to the wrong person. Kind of whether we win or whether we lose, we're in the conversation for it because we've got the game in hand. So the conversation is still there, and I don't really know what else to say. I mean, people think I'm joking, and I'm not. It's going to be a competition this year. Chelsea aren't just going to walk it. It's going to be tight. Arsenal aren't just going to walk it. It's going to be tight. But we look at this game, and obviously the Arsenal game that's coming up in the middle of the month as well. Those two games are massive, and in all seriousness, it will show us where we are. If we lose both of those, it's going to be tricky, and then we've got to try and bounce back from that. But 100%, if we beat Chelsea, which is something we haven't done before, then people really do need to sit up and take notice of what's happening here at Manchester United. And that's really what I can sort of add to that. You absolutely do have to say that we are 100% are in the conversation, whether we win or whether we lose currently, because that's the way the league table stacks up. But 100%, if we do win, that's a big thing. I would throw that same question to these guys, but then I'd also say, does the fact that Emma Hayes is not about, does that make any difference to you? Have you noticed a difference with Emma not being around with the way the team are? So maybe throw that in with your points of view as well.
Slightly quieter on the touchline. No. I mean, I've got to be honest. It's not like I've not really noticed anything. To be honest, I think Emma, she's not there in person, but she's there in spirit and in everything else. They've got an earpiece in. Clearly, a lot of the tactic. I think she said Denise is picking the team, but a lot of the tactics are so sort of well drilled. And the game, I think, away at PSG, obviously, that she wasn't present for, I think that was the one a lot of people were really quite scared for, because that could have been a real sort of banana skin in that regard. But it turned out to actually be a real tactical masterclass. And I think that, I don't know if Emma will be back this weekend. I think she's aiming to be back for the Tottenham game, was what I was told. She might be at LSV, but I don't think she's going to be in the dugout this weekend. Certainly was the latest that I understood. I think, ultimately Chelsea's squad is so experienced and so well drilled that it kind of almost doesn't matter that Emma isn't there, because they know that Emma's presence is just so omnipotent. It doesn't really, ever leave.
Alina, I want to throw that question over to you, but also a kind of a follow-up to what I asked Barry. So is it too early in the season, I guess, for this game to be defining? I put it in the title because from a United point of view, it feels that way, that our next 4 league games now, someone correct me if I'm wrong here, Chelsea, Arsenal, Villa, City, that could define our season. If we lose 3 of 4 of those, we're in big trouble. Whereas obviously we're looking great at the moment. We win all of those, we're on for the title. But Alina, from a Chelsea point of view, is it too early for these to be season defining, do you think? And I guess from a Chelsea point of view, following from what Rob said, do you think it's going to be a miss, Emma Hayes maybe not being on the touchline?
I think it's just incredible how Chelsea have coped with Emma Hayes not being on the sidelines. As you said, Rob, it's a bit more silent, but that's the main thing that has changed, and just how much they have stepped up in the squad, everyone taking responsibility from the players to the backroom staff. That's just been incredible to witness. And I think, of course, that game will be defining in some way, but the further the league goes, the further it continues, the more decisive and important the games will get. But still, it's a big fixture for both teams. Any of the teams will drop points. One of them has to drop points in some way. Maybe both, maybe just one. We'll see. And I think in that way, it is of course decisive, or at least a bit defining in what where the teams stand. I think for United is obviously big game to like really figure out where they stand in terms of their performance. And Chelsea have already shown in a few games this season where they stand and what they are capable of. And I think in that terms and that from that point of view, it is of course decisive or like showing the direction where both teams are off to.
No, interesting points made there. I think I agree with this comment from Lanzell. If we can sustain the first half and we played Chelsea the last day, I do agree with that because that was probably one of the best performances I've seen from this United side, that first half away at Chelsea last season. Nancy, I want to throw a question over to you. Do you see United as a potential title winning side? If we go on and win this weekend, do you think that we should be in that conversation? Because there's still, I know obviously we're still very early on, but as somebody made the point, there's not that many games in the WSL. You can only really drop maybe 2 or 3 losses at most, and you're out of the title race. How do you see it like that? That if United do win, they should be a part of that conversation? Because we do seem to be still just outside of that conversation.
I think when you have a lot of people asking that question and you hear the responses, I think you've kind of got the same answer in most cases. That it's a 2-horse race between Chelsea and Arsenal. It's actually quite funny that like City don't even get a mention anymore, which I think's so bizarre considering like how prominent they were in the WSL. And that leads on to my next point. It means that anything can happen. So for a team like City to not even be a talking point to if they could win it, if they could be a contender, pretty much, what's that to say that it doesn't mean United can't go on to win it?
It's fair because I think not many people I still see City as our biggest rivals for the top 3. I know people are discounting them already, but they've only...
Oh, definitely for top 3.
My unpopular view
free.
is City are in the title race.
Go on, Rob, what was that, sorry?
My unpopular view is City are in the title race. I think they're in it in spite of the manager. I think the manager's a complete tool, and I've said this before, so I won't go into that again. But I think the fact they've got Bunny Shaw up front, I think Bunny is probably the most disrespected player in the WSL. When people talk about the Miedemeier and Kerr sort of up against each other as the top goal scorers, everyone ignores the fact that Bunny Shaw's goal per minute ratio is absolutely ridiculous. Even last year when she wasn't starting games, she was scoring a lot. She's now actually being allowed to lead the line. They've got Lauren Hemp, who's the sort of player that's capable of winning games out of nothing. They've got people like Greenwood at the back. They've got a very good young defence at City. And I think their big issue is if they can keep players fit. I don't think they've necessarily got the squad depth. That's the issue. But if they can keep that first 11 fit, that first 11 can go punch anyone. And at the start of the season, they gave a very good first half at Kings Meadow. And they were very unlucky not to be 2 or 3 up before Chelsea scored in that game. I think, that is... People writing off City are dangerous, especially... I don't know how they're doing in their Conti Cup group, but if they go out the Conti Cup sort of, before the later stages, they haven't got any Champions League football to contend with. They're going to be down to a game a week. They've got the ability to keep that squad focused. I'm sure they'll bring in 1 or 2, players in January. And I think, that I don't think they should be discounted at all. I think people are being unfair. I think there's a proper title race on between Chelsea, Arsenal, City and United this year.
And I think you're right about that. But I think the other thing to recall there is that what matters, if they do have people in January, that's great. But it's how big that gap is. I mean, it's 6 points at the moment, but they do have the game in hand. It's going to be tricky. If they are sort of 9, 12 points behind by the time we get...
remembering the game in hand's against Arsenal, so if they win that game in hand, then they also prevent Arsenal moving 3 points further ahead as well. Yeah. So that I think is why I think all of the sides will end up with at least a couple of losses this year, however well anyone plays, because I think, you see situations like last year with Birmingham where they took those 3 points of Arsenal that no one expected. You saw Chelsea, losing to Liverpool this year. You saw United last year when you dropped points to people like West Ham in those games towards the end of the season. We've seen City, concede 4 to an Aston Villa side that no one, I think, was expecting on the opening day of the season that Villa would score 4 in that game. There are situations, I think, this year where it makes it more predictable, and I think that's a good thing.
Sure.
No, fair points made there. And again, Lanzal, it's hard to disagree with you. I stick to it that we stay unbeaten against the top three and handle our business. We're in the top three, maybe a conversation with the title. I always say that. It's something I've said for years. Against the top three or the top four in the men's game, win your home games, don't lose your aways, you're in with a chance. That's how you should always look at games like that. So we go our next two and get 2 points, 4 points. I don't think we can complain too much about that. Lanzar's now talking about Tottenham. I disagree. I now disagree with you, Lanzar, because I don't think they're in the conversation. I know they beat Brighton, but let's not beat around the bush. Brighton have not been great at the start of this season, so I wouldn't look too much into that fixture there. Right, I think we're getting towards the end, and we're going to look at score predictions in a second, but I want to bring somebody in who's been waiting backstage for almost about 40 minutes now. Now, this person I'm going to give him a great welcome as well, because this person is probably one of the longest serving viewers, always in the comments, every single video. First time on a show. I don't know if they're ready or not. The camera's not on, and they're still muted, so I'm hoping they're ready backstage. I just want to bring them in for this conversation. Like I said, one of the very, very first viewers we ever had on this platform. So I'm going to bring this person in. I have to welcome Sang. Thank you so much for joining us. I don't know whether you can hear us, see us, whatever, but
testing.
There we go. We have.
Can you hear me? Oh,
we can hear you.
Sorry, I'm just going to leave the camera off because I'm in South Africa at the moment, and so the connection might be weird.
I think the real reason you want to keep your camera off is because after years of having to go at our hairlines, you're bald. Oh, look at that. He's not. Would you believe it?
Oh, sorry.
I took my bright off. Look at it.
So my hairline's fine. It's actually raging out of control at the moment. I'm going to go sort it out tomorrow. But I just wanted to say it's great to actually be on the show and say this. This is going to be the best game in the WSL so far this season, I think. We are at our weakest at this point in the season. So Chelsea have this crawl, walk, run, sprint mentality to a season. So it's best to catch us early in the season. Emma's not going to be on the touchline, screaming and shouting at the refs and God and whoever else gets in the way. We have some injuries and we have some positions which are new, and we're trying a new system of play. That all being said, I think the onus is upon United to come out with a mentality. If you guys have to decide between coming at us or sitting back and trying to soak pressure. Now, the danger of coming at us, which you always seem to do, and I always appreciate, is if we catch you on the counter, you're toast. I mean, it just is. But if you sit back and soak, I wonder how well you can do it. This is what it's going to come down to. I think it's going to be the most exciting game. I'm just hoping the weather also plays along, because it looks like there might be some bad weather. But other than that, I think it's going to be an exciting game. Too early in the season to be a decider of any sort. And the one question I did want to ask all of you is, do you think it's okay for United to play for a draw? Would you take would you set out your squad to take just a point? Thanks.
I think it's a dangerous tactic, but I think it's all right for them, considering the fact that you haven't taken many points against the top three. You sort of, I think what you really need to do, as you said, is go unbeaten against the top three. I don't think it's a bad thing if you set out for a point. I think if you do that, it'll play into Chelsea's hands, and I think they will win. But I could see the logic behind doing it.
I don't think we should set out for a point, but I wouldn't. I'll be very happy if we get one. Put it that way. I don't know, Alina, for you, would a draw from a Chelsea point of view be a good result? Would you be sat there going, "That's good for Chelsea," or how would you be a bit disappointed that you've not come to LSV and beat us?
Oh, I think a draw would be a bit difficult, because that would mean that at some point during the game you kind of have to settle with what you've done so far and kind of switch off. And I think that's where, what Chelsea shouldn't do, because that would obviously be an advantage for Man United. And if it's the other way around, then I don't see any team benefiting from that. So, and I don't think that any of the teams would settle for a draw. I think they will both fight for the 3 points until the very last minute, and don't think that for any of the teams, they are very ambitious, and I don't think that they would be happy with a draw at the end.
Nancy, I'll throw this question over to you as well, but also that comment there is addressed to you. For looking at who, I'll rephrase it slightly. Who's this more of a bigger game for? Do you think there's more onus on United to get the win, or do you think there's more onus on Chelsea to get the win after the loss on the first game of the season?
I think I completely agree with what's just been said. Both teams will want to get 3 points from this game. I think if you're playing to win, and you're always playing to win. That's what football's about, isn't it? It's about winning. It's not about taking part or women's football winning, as to my earlier joke. But I think Chelsea are expected to win it. Like, in general, this is generally speaking, Chelsea are expected to win it. So I think that makes United want it more, if that makes sense. I always say if that makes sense, but I feel like that's my way of backing myself up. So yeah, I think in general terms, people will be like, it's not going to be an easy game, but Chelsea are expected to win it. So United may have this in the back of their head or back of their mind. They're not going in as underdogs realistically, because they're not an underdog team. But because the general feel is that Chelsea will get the 3 points, United will really want to fight for it and nick those points off them.
Yeah,
I think Mark's put it in the press conference. He's mentioned that we've got to have confidence in the way that we play. I think it's more about how the result can affect you. I think United have got so much to gain from a win. That win, I think, would propel us into a position that we've not been in before. Whereas if Chelsea lose, I don't think they're going to be too fussed about that, because as Rob and Alina have both alluded to, they've just got this way of playing. They've got these tactics. So if they lose a game, they lose a game. It doesn't matter. They're going to come back the next. They've got that confidence already because they know how good they are. And, you know, I know we've had a laugh and a joke today, but let's be brutally honest. They are the best team in the country. They 100% are, and we have to accept that. So I actually think the loss for Chelsea wouldn't hurt them as much. Whereas if we lose, we then go into the game against Arsenal with a bit less confidence. We could potentially lose that one as well. And then all of a sudden we're back to here with you, Connor, and just talking about the top three rather than challenging for the title. So I think that's the differences that we're looking at here. Whereas a draw, all bets are off. It's open for anybody then, including City, because they'll be allowed back in. So
that's the thing for me. There's so much riding on this, especially from a United fan point of view. Looking at it, speaking to a lot of United fans, a lot of Chelsea fans, and fans of all over the WSL, it feels like there's a lot riding on these 2-3 weeks for United, because we're so high on confidence right now. We've won not conceded all this. If we get, I don't think it will happen. But if we do get beat heavy on Sunday, you can imagine the reactions. Oh, great! Well, the first team we play of proper quality, we're right back. We're back to reality almost. That's what I'm worried about the most. Is if we get beat heavy. If we get beat by a narrow 2-1, it happens. As you said, Chelsea, fantastic side. I'd accept that perfectly. But that's why I'm kind of holding out. We should play for the win, but 100% I'm taking a draw, because I just don't want to see all the good work that we've seen already this season undone by one result. Like I said, it shouldn't matter because of the team that we're playing against. But we saw what happened last season, obviously at LSV. I don't think that will happen again. I think the last game of the season against Chelsea was much better. I just think fitness completely, in the second half, and obviously Emma Hayes, great
fitness, but also attitude. I don't think we came out for the second half of that game feeling like we wanted to do anything other than sit back and try and keep the win. That's just such a dangerous thing to do. We talk about playing for the draw. You can't sit back against Chelsea. They'll rip you to pieces if you do that. So we need to give them something to think about. And if we do that, we're in with a shout. If we don't, then, at least we're sitting in a brand new stand we've never stood in before. So that'll be something new to look forward to. And the rain.
There we are. There's some odds there for you. Bet responsibly. I will just say that, or don't bet at all. I will throw that out there. But if you're an odds person, Chelsea obviously is still as they're going to be. I think any game Chelsea play, and they've got to go on a massive losing run to not be favourites in any game I think that they play. There's going to be a period of sustained pressure from Chelsea. We have to ride that out 100%. I think you commented earlier, Lancel, that attacking line, you can't just sit there. And yeah, I think
one thing you guys definitely have to do is you cannot play that type of gambling defense on Pernilla Harder. I don't know why you do it, but you've done it every game that she's played against you. You've sort of like put one defender in a certain situation and said, go on, you can stop her. And I just think that's terrible defending philosophy. You know, like you guys have dangerous players. There will be players who, when they come into the Chelsea half, they're going to be stuck with two people. It's just going to happen. Or, well, we more swarm when we defend, but it's going to happen. I don't know why there's this, every time you play against us, there's this like, I don't want to call it disrespect, but there's a sort of like, oh, she's not dangerous. And then she runs at you and scores.
There's definitely that fear. I know me and Alina, we've spoken about this a lot, that fear of, especially at LSV, the goal that Harder scored, and she did it in the Conti Cup as well, where she just dropped Mannion down and just, yeah, I don't want to see anything like that. We've not even spoken about Harder in the last hour and 5 minutes. That's another player who started the season so well and, you know, fully fit. Harder's not exactly a bad player to have leading your line. We'll do what we always do then. Before we wrap up, let's go around and do our score predictions, goal scorers, whatever you want to do. Mine will probably change. So if you're looking at the predictions league and what I say now, I'll probably change it tomorrow when I put my predictions in. But we'll do it in order on screen. Go on, Barry. What are you going for this week?
Well, I don't want to be that person that says it, but I did say it earlier on. So I'm going to stick with it because I'm not like you. I don't change like the wind. I'm going Manchester United 2. Chelsea 1, and we will concede our first goal. So, yeah, I'm going 2-1 United. I think we'll just nick it. And obviously, once you've gone around here, you're going to finish speaking to everyone and you're going to wrap up probably. So I just want to say this has been one of the best days I've ever had on this channel. It's amazing. Honestly, look at the people that we're with. We've got Nance Baker, who's an absolute legend in her own lifetime. Alina and Rob are two of the most fantastic Chelsea fans you're ever going to meet. And we've had Sang on after all that time with the banter and everything we've had going back and forth. I feel like it's my birthday, one of the best days ever. So really good to have you all on. Thank you.
No, I shall echo that as well. Go on, Nancy. What's your prediction for this weekend?
I'm not sure on a prediction. I haven't decided yet. I'm going to be honest. I do think we will see a goal from Tooney and a goal from LJ. But that doesn't mean my prediction's 1-1. But I do think we'll see goals from those two as they're playing really well at the moment.
Sang, I'll come over to you as well. I think you've just put your prediction in the comments. You just said 3-1 Chelsea. Is that who's scoring in those 4 goals?
I think LJ will get at least one. The curse of player scoring against their old club. And I think Guru Wrighton and Pernilla Harder will score the other goals.
Indeed. Yeah, I'll come back to mine in a second. Sarah's not happy with your answer, I don't think. Sitting on the fence. Fair enough, you can sit on the fence if you want.
I just haven't decided yet, I'll be honest. When Connor sends in he's like, Nancy, I need your predictions. I do it like the day before every time, and I look at it and I'm like, bish, bash, bosh, bosh, bosh.
Yeah.
Like, whack it out. Like, honestly.
That's all right. Connor doesn't do his till about, 2 minutes before kickoff. So,
Yeah.
I always chase. I have a list of people, obviously, that I chase. I'm always the last. I chase everyone else, and I've never done it myself. So
we love a bit of fence sitting anyway. It's the neutral in me.
There we go. Go on, Rob. What's your prediction?
I don't know. So all I will say, again, it sounds really. I really hope it isn't ruined by like some overly officious referee or something, or nonsense refereeing. I don't want to see a big game disrupted by that. I've seen a couple of big games in the men's league so far this season that have just been completely ruined by referees that have come in that want to make themselves the star attraction. The referee last week at Kings Meadow was absolutely, utterly terrible. I thought at times they were so finicky and so fussy with the game. It just stopped any kind of flow whatsoever. I think it'll probably be 2-1 to Chelsea. I think it'll be a late winner. I could see it being something. I could see it coming from a penalty or something like that. Mara Mielda usually scores against Manchester clubs. She does hate Manchester clubs. We've established this before. Pernilla Harder's guaranteed her annual, goal of the season contender against you. She used to be a fan of you, so consider it a compliment. She says her best goals for you. From a United perspective, I think it'll be someone weird. I could see it being sort of Hayley Ladd scoring, someone really random or bizarre. Hayley Ladd or Hannah Blundell. Actually, it seems like the sort of thing I could see her equalising early in the second half, poking home from a corner or something like that. But I think Chelsea will just have enough. But it wouldn't surprise me if it was a 2-2 draw or a 1-1 draw.
Interesting. But to be fair, Nancy, if you ever want to change your career, refereeing's there for you. I mean,
Qualified,
you probably don't.
But absolutely not.
You probably don't want Emma Hayes shouting at you from the touchline.
Qualified,
like
but absolutely not. No way.
I don't.
I want to know if you referee the same, because you said there, you asked, if that makes sense. You said you say that just to sort of back yourself up. So do you reckon you'd do that? Like you're off because that was a 2-footed tackle. If that makes sense.
Does that make sense? Yeah, 100%. I'd be like, don't hate me. You're off. You did this. That makes sense. Honestly, I'd apologise for everything. I'd be like, look, don't hate me. I'm just doing my job. I'm just trying really hard to make everyone happy. I mean, I don't try and make everyone happy, but if I was a ref, honestly, I'd be like trying my hardest not to be hated. I wouldn't do it. I'm not doing it.
No, I've got a couple of refs in my family, and I don't envy them at all, some of the stories I hear. But go on, Alina. Finished it off the prediction round. What score are you going for?
Rob, did you say 3-1 for Chelsea?
I went for 2-1, but go for 3-1.
Yeah, I'm going for 3-1. Just didn't want to make it double. Yeah, I'm going for 3-1 for Chelsea. Also, I think might be a bit of a late winner, or like in case of Chelsea, if it's a third goal, a bit of a late sealing of the 3 points. I would also think that Pernilla Harder scores a goal in good old fashion, but the rest, I think, for some parts of the game, it might be an open one. But I think Chelsea will take all 3 points.
Interesting. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. I'm not as confident, I don't think, as other United fans that we're going to win. I do think we'll concede. I think that's going to be a given. As good as our defensive record has been, we have given up a lot of chances and some silly errors against Leicester. We've saw, obviously, with Cincinnati against Durham. I know that was a different backline, but I'm going to go for 1-1. But I will share the thing if I do change my mind on the prediction league, because I always do that. But hang on a minute, Sang, you're on the show and in the comments roasting me. What's going on here? I don't even know what that's supposed to mean, but there we go. Right, we'll wrap it up there then. Thanks to everyone in the comments for coming on. I will just get a couple of people, the 3 guests, obviously, and yourself saying if you want to. But Alina, to shout out, where can people find you? I know you've just started. Well, I don't know whether you've just started it, but you shared yesterday a new Twitter page as well. If you want to give that a shout out as well.
Yeah, I started a English-speaking Twitter account on the German Women's League, Frauenbundesliga, that's what it's called. And yeah, just to provide more coverage, more English-speaking coverage of the league that we have here. And yeah, would be great if you could give it a follow or just share the content that we're sharing there. And we're currently setting everything up. And yeah, then we'll start next week with covering the German women's national team and continue to cover the league very soon.
No, 100%. Make sure you follow that. I think it's on my Twitter. It's on Alina's Twitter. You'll find it somewhere. If not, I will put it in the comments anyway. Nancy, if people don't, I'm pretty sure everyone knows where to find you on Twitter anyway and things like that. But what are you up to over the next few weeks, content-wise, and where can people find all of
that? I think my @ is either Nance Baker or Nance Baker _. So it's one of the other. Yeah, got some. I'm not at a game this week. Spending some time with the family, but I'll be here, there, everywhere doing bits and bobs as usual. Also, if anyone ever sees me at games, please say hello, because I get loads of messages saying, "Oh, I saw you, but I was too scared to approach you." And I'm like, I'm literally 5'2" and I'm really nice, so please say hi.
I think you got one of those messages off me off the one game I have been season at home to Reading. I think I saw you from a distance. But,
the last time at a game I've seen you blanked me, and it made me feel very, very sad.
Did I? I'm so sorry. Do you know what? Sometimes I just walk straight ahead because I just get like, let me just get to where I'm going, because I'm normally in the way. I'm so sorry.
It's totally
Shout
fine.
louder.
It's totally fine. It was just one of those, like, oh, just say hello. I was like, yeah, blank. I was like, Jillian, cheers.
Literally, next time, just shout my name a bit louder and be like, it's
Hello,
me,
you're
Rob.
right.
I'll be like, oh, hi, you're right.
That's fine.
Indeed. And Rob, where can people find you if not already? You've got a boatload of Twitter followers. You don't need any more. But
Yeah, I'm concerned why some people follow me. I'm not that interesting. But if you do want to follow me, it's at RJP Journalism. The much more interesting follow, if you are Chelsea fans, is at the CSW Social, where I put out my actual Chelsea-related content, and I'm not just moaning about how transfers work, which is usually what you'll find on my main account.
yeah, definitely make sure you're following these three people, and obviously Barry as well. And Sang, thank you so much for coming on. As I said, you like people in the comments I can see already, Lanzel and TJ and John and all these people that were there from the start, right from the very beginning of this channel. So it's massively appreciated, and thank you for coming on. I think, Sarah, that's in response to Nancy, I think. So again, but got shy. So
I'm really nice, apart from apparently when I blank Rob. So
so there we go. Last game 0-2. There we go. Interesting. Thanks for all the nice comments as well throughout the show. We have gone a little bit over. I said we'd try and wrap it up in an hour, but there we are.
Thank you, Connor, for hosting as well.
Oh, there we go. Thank you. I love this channel. I love everyone getting involved, and that's what makes it the community of people. I think we're actually coming up to, well, my 100th show this year will be on Monday on the Match Reaction, so we'll be back for that. We're actually closing on nearly 100 different people for the channel just this year alone that have contributed to the channel, so that is fantastic as well. So we'll be back on Monday. The vlog, match day vlog will be out probably Monday by the time I get around to editing it. So it'll be around Monday midday-ish. Match Reaction Monday. Then we got the tactical analysis show on Tuesday. Barry back on Wednesday. We've got another special on Thursday, and then we've got something else on Friday as well. So we've got a show every single day this next week. So make sure you check all that out. Make sure you're following all these 5 people. Make sure you're liking and subscribing, and we shall see you all very soon.